He kōna e purangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa. Kia ora, and a very warm welcome to the Kākāpō Files. I'm Alison Balance, and this is episode 11 of this RNZ podcast, Kākāpō Ranges. We are following the biggest breeding season on record for New Zealand's rare, flightless night parrot, the Kākāpō. Since this podcast kicked off in mid-December, we've been covering all sorts of things Kākāpō, and we've still got things to discover. Later in this episode, I'll be catching up with Andrew Digby for all the latest news and numbers. But first, some of you have asked about the enormous logistics involved in managing this breeding season. Well, there are lots. So, one morning while I was down on Whenua Hou recording for the podcast, I whipped around the hut to find some of the island rangers to ask what their day was looking like.
Yeah, I'm Bryony, so I'm one of the temp rangers. Been on the team for a couple of weeks and still learning stuff.
So how are you finding it out here on Codfish? It's pretty busy.
Yeah, it's been pretty intense and a steep learning curve. At the moment, lots of carrying stuff around, like setting up tents and finding nests, and a few late nights monitoring nests from the train station back at base.
So what's your chores for today? Do you know yet?
Yeah, I'm going out to set up a tent for future night work. Yeah, that's my jobs for today.
So it's just creating a nice comfortable place so that when people are out there at night, they've got somewhere to stay out of the rain, somewhere to sleep.
Yep, that's the idea, yep.
So it's basically a gear carrying day by the sound of it.
Yep, and then I'll come back and carry on looking at feed out, make sure everyone's getting fed the right amounts and getting regular weights and stuff, as I'm in charge of that at the moment.
So you've got the volunteers who are actually doing the legwork on the hill for that one, who actually carry the food around, and you're just making sure that everything is going swimmingly.
Yep, that's right, and working out if they're getting the right amount of food, so we're not putting out too much or not enough. If the birds are getting hungry, make sure they're at good weights to keep them healthy. Yeah.
So is there a perfect weight for a Kākāpō to be at?
We're doing a range for the females between 1.6 and 1.7 or 8. Yeah, so that makes sure we're getting the right ratio of males to female chicks. And with the males at the moment, because they're spending a lot of time booming, we're trying to just keep them as big as possible without being too big so that the harness still fits.
Thanks, Brownie. Good morning, Freya.
Morena.
I need to meet some more of the island rangers, so can you introduce yourself?
Sure can. My name's Freya and I'm a Kākāpō ranger. I've been working for the team for the last 2.5 years, and living on this island is bliss.
So for the last 2.5 years you've been building up to this breeding season?
Yeah, pretty much. 2016 was a big one, but this one's even bigger, so it's been nice to have a bit of time to prep and get ourselves mentally and physically prepared for the task.
So what are some of the jobs you've got on today?
Well, today I am acting as what we call camp mum. So I'm arranging all the flights that get to the island, all the food and everything that basically needs to be here for us to function. So at the moment I've just found out I've ordered 168 kgs of food to supply and basically help everyone get through the amount of work we've got to do.
So when's that food arriving?
Today. So we're going to have to get our arms in and get carrying up the beach, so that'll be fun.
Now tell me how people and food arrive on this island.
So today we have food and people arriving on a fixed wing plane. It carries about 4 people, but in the next week we might get a helicopter out as well if the weather doesn't get so good, and we'll get people and food and gas out like that as well.
So the plane lands on the beach.
Plane lands on a lovely runway.
What preparation do you have to do for that?
Well, Margie this morning has actually gone out and drawn a runway for us. So this is where we zigzag up and down the beach, making sure we draw a line between the hard and soft sand, and at the point of the hard sand basically is where the plane can land. We also report in all of the weather conditions, and today is stunning. No wind, beautiful blue skies, there are no white caps, so it's less than 20 knots of wind. It's fantastic.
So it's a good day at Whenua Hou International Airport.
Exactly.
So you've done the shopping, you've organised the transport. What else are you going to do today?
Well, I've now got to prepare the flights for the next 2 weeks, because we've got flights coming on pretty much every 2 days at the moment. So lots of people arriving on the island, lots of people going off the island. So I've got to prepare for that, and then hopefully get ready tonight to go up to see a nest, hopefully.
Now, you were at a nest last night?
I was at a nest last night. I was at Punamu's nest. She's mated with Gulliver, which is very exciting. He's a Fiordland bird. But she decided to stay on the nest all night. So I'm going to hopefully go back tonight and have a bit more luck.
So the purpose of your visit last night was to do what?
So we don't know what she's got in her nest yet, so we're hoping to see what's in there. I'm hoping at least 2 eggs at the moment. She's been incubating for about 7 days, and then we're going to candle those eggs and see whether they're fertile or not. And then if they are fertile, which we really, really hope they will be, we'll bring them back to the hut and get them incubating in some of those incubators and get them all ready to roll before they hatch.
So when you go up at night to check on a nest, talk me through what happens. What's the process?
So when we usually get there, we have quite a setup at a nest. We have a nest snark, which tells us whether the female is present or absent on a nest. And we go to the tent site and we set up a camera so that we can see her and see whether she is on the nest. We then go to sleep, hoping that we get a good night's rest.
So you got a tent there as well?
We got a tent there. It's a very flash tent site at Panamas as well, so it's very lovely. And then we wait and hope that the female will leave the nest. Then we have back at the hut a nest controller who is basically getting all this information back from the nest that tell us whether the female is present or absent. The nest controller then calls up us and tells us whether she's left the nest, and when she leaves the nest we scuttle on down to the nest and we're able to get in there, see those eggs and candle them and then put them back and hopefully get back to our tent site before the female even returns, and so she never knows we're there.
So your days are and your nights are quite varied.
Quite varied, yeah, you could definitely say that. It definitely keeps the job interesting.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, Freya. I'm going to pop across the other side of the office now. I've got one more person to catch up with.
Say hi to Marty for me.
Can I get you to introduce yourself?
Oh, kia ora, Alison. My name's Margie Grant. So I'm one of the rangers that has been brought on because of the advent of this anticipated huge breeding season. I was brought on in July with 2 other rangers, and I've got a year-long to a year-and-a-half-long contract. So I've joined the team and been immersed in the madness of the culture here and the busyness and finding my way through everything, which is hilarious, exhausting and fun.
So what are some of the jobs that you're responsible for?
Well, everything. The good thing about here working as a ranger is the enormous variety and the skills that you pick up. So today, at the moment, I'm just entering data that I've been out for the last few days doing things like listening to the outputs on the birds' transmitters, which tells us a lot about their state of activity, which lets us know things like if they're nesting or they're not nesting and what state they might be in. So I've been entering those and other data, because data informs pretty much all the primary decisions we make here.
I see a lot of people sitting at a lot of computers a lot of the time.
Yes, it's like we've got some good people here who go around reminding us that we need to be entering data.
So you've got some data entry to do. What else are you going to do today?
As for us, I've been out walking the beach, refuelling the generator, because that runs a lot of the time at the moment because we've got incubators going. We run the generator a lot to keep up with the power demands and the power demands with so many people here, taking stuff out for the plane. I'm the gear master at the moment, so there's a lot of gear going up the hill. When we're finding nests, that means that we have to put a lot of technology out to support what we're observing at the nest and managing the eggs there and the birds. And also, as Freya said, there's some rather nice camps set up so that we can do that comfortably overnight and not have to sit out in the wet if it's raining to do that. So I help manage all that gear and also the repairs on it and deciding where it goes and how we move it around, because we don't have unlimited gear, so there's a nice little juggle going on between priorities at times. So those will be my main things today. Like Freya and the other rangers, I'm out in the field a lot day and night, but today so far I'm hiding away in here hoping to get a chance to do the data entry and do the gear, organise the gear stuff before I get grabbed for something outside. So yeah, and talking to you.
It's all part of the job.
Yeah.
I'll let you get back to data entry.
Yeah, fantastic to talk to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Margie. And a big thanks too to Freya and Bryony. Now, we heard mention of the nest controller job and the train station. That's one of the night shift jobs. While most people are up at the nests, one ranger stays back at base to be the coordinator, looking after a very vital piece of software, the train station. It collects all the information from the smart transmitters that the birds are wearing and the sensors at each nest. Knock, knock. I've come in to find out what you're doing.
I am hunting for cables.
You're hunting for cables, but that's not your real job for the night. Can I get you to introduce yourself?
I'm Anton.
So what's your role here?
Mainly working with the database that they have in place. There's been a team in Wellington building a new database for the Kākāpō team, and I'm tasked with helping them familiarise themselves with the database and get it working well for them. Yeah.
And you're doing another job tonight as well on the side.
Yes, I'm the nest controller for the night, which means I basically pay attention to all the signals coming into the hut and watch for any activity at the nests, and then contact people who are near the nests, potentially stealing eggs or checking up on those eggs.
So I think Deirdre and Andrew are both up the hill tonight.
Yep, so Andrew's doing a solo mission up the hill. Unfortunately, we can't get the signals from the nest he's at, so he's all alone, and Deirdre is with two others, and we do have the signals for her nest.
So whose nest is she at?
She's at Bella's nest. Yep, so I think the intention might be to take the last egg from Bella.
So this job that you have is made possible because everything up on the hill is automated, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to get everything connected on the island, but when it does work, it works pretty well. Yep.
So what happens if a female kākāpō, she's sitting on her nest, she decides to get off?
We get notified that she's left her nest, and if she's off for too long, we can take action if required.
So is this a job that keeps you up all night?
No, not really. So the system alerts us with a loud sort of alarm when bad things happen, so we can usually get some sleep.
So females who are sitting on eggs up the hill still, you'll get notified. There we go. Right on cue, the doorbell rings. So what does that mean?
That just means something's happened at one of the nests. So if we have a look. So a ding-dong has gone at Bella's nest, and so that's the nest that Deirdre is at. So potentially the sensor will soon tell us that Bella has left her nest.
Well, they were hoping that Bella might leave by about 10 o'clock. So
yep.
She's spot on, 7 minutes to 10. But if she's gone off, she'll have gone off, what, to feed?
Yep, to feed, and then she'll want to come back eventually. So she might go off for half an hour or something. That green means she's there, and those blue dots show her activity levels. So they're pretty low, generally speaking, but see her activity levels just popped up there, and the ding-dong's gone off. So that sort of suggests there's activity. DD from base, over. Hi Dee, the ding-dong at Bella's nest went off a couple of minutes ago. She hasn't left her nest officially, but it might happen in a couple of minutes, and I'll let you know if the situation changes. And it just keeps going until you stop it. Yep, Bella has officially left the nest, over.
So Bella went off tonight, but Deirdre was up there last night and she didn't leave the nest.
That's right, so Deirdre stayed in a bivvy bag all night.
Just in case?
Yeah. So sometimes it doesn't work out so well.
So Bella's eggs are infertile, is that right? Or are they fertile and they're being brought down here to incubate?
Yep, so Bella's fertile. Yep.
Okay, so that'll be coming down here and going into the incubator room.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Deirdre will be walking down the hill very carefully.
Yes, hopefully.
Thanks, Anton. Now it's time for the news. Kākāpō news, that is. In this episode 11, Kākāpō Rangers of the Kākāpō Files, it's Friday the 1st of March, and I've managed to get a few minutes with Kākāpō scientist Andrew Digby, who has just flown off Whenua Hou for a short and very well-deserved rest. Kia ora, Andrew, and welcome back to the Kākāpō Files. How's the breeding season getting on? How many eggs do we have so far?
So far, the current count is 217 eggs, and that's roughly split, roughly half and half across each island, Whenua Hou and Anchor.
Gosh, and of those, how many of those are fertile?
96 of them are fertile, so that's around about 47% fertility. And one thing that's been kind of interesting is that we've had quite a lot of second clutch eggs, and we've seen a higher fertility in the second clutch, which is not quite what we were expecting.
Well, that's great news.
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. Yeah, so we've still got quite a few second clutch eggs yet to find and to find out the fertility of. But so far, the second clutch fertility is around about 58%.
So there's definitely more to come.
Definitely, yep.
So does that mean the females are still mating?
Yeah, so they seem to have stopped on Anchor. It was a bit weird. We had a bit of a week's break on Anchor, then a few kicked off again. And we had the same on Whenua Hou. And we haven't had any for the last 2 nights, but before that we had, I think, about 6 matings over 3 nights. So far we've had 26 females remate on both islands, 14 on Whenua and 12 on Anchor.
Well, that's a really good vindication of the risk you took in taking those first eggs away from females and hoping they would re-nest.
Yeah, it was a gamble, and there was times when we were sort of holding our breath a little bit, waiting to see if anything would happen, but yeah, it definitely does seem to have paid off.
So it seems to me one of the hallmarks of this breeding season is that not only did it start very early, but it's a very long, drawn-out breeding season.
It is, it really is. So we've had matings, these recent matings on Whenua were more than 2 months after the first mating. We've got, I think our oldest chick at the moment is just coming up for 30 days old, and we've still got eggs to find and probably still eggs to be laid. So there's going to be a huge gap, probably more than 2 months between those chick ages.
Well, that brings us nicely to chicks. So how many chicks have hatched so far?
We've got 44 live chicks so far. We've had 46 hatch and we've lost 2.
Oh, that's sad, but actually, if you've only lost 2 so far, that's pretty good going.
It is. It's still very early days. Some of those chicks are still very young. Last breeding season, we lost 14 chicks, so we hatched 47 and lost 14. So far, we've hatched 46 and lost 2, but yeah, there's still a long, long way to go.
Wow, so in terms of chicks, you're definitely going to overtake that last good breeding season in 2016.
We hope so, yeah. We hope so.
Fingers crossed. Have you had some chicks that have died at hatching, though?
We've had a couple so far die at hatching, yes. Yeah, the causes are not quite clear as to why that happened. Something went wrong in the last sort of week of the incubation process, and the eggs haven't developed as completely as they should do. But yeah, we're still looking into that.
So where are all those chicks now?
Bit of a mix. So some of the smaller chicks are in Dunedin. We actually had 9 chicks come back down to Invercargill yesterday. So we're getting the bigger chicks. The bigger chicks are being hand-reared in Invercargill, the smaller ones in Dunedin. And then, of course, we have chicks on the islands too. So we have chicks in nests, and we do have some chicks in the hand-rearing facilities on both Anchor and Whenua.
So you really don't have all your chicks in one basket?
No, we don't. No, they're spread all over the place. We're trying to keep as many in nests as possible. That is our default position. Because we second clutched so many birds this year, we ended up with a lot of birds to hand rear. So that will be, I think, nearly up to 40 birds that will hand rear. That's a result of that double clutching. But for these second clutches, we try to keep at least 1 chick per nest. And on Anchor, where it looks like the rimu fruit is ripening, we're hoping to be able to have most nests with 2 chicks in.
Does the rimu fruit look like it's ripening on Whenua?
Not yet. No, we've only found a few ripe fruit, and it doesn't look like it is at the moment, and I'm getting a little bit nervous that it won't, but still got a little way to go.
Ah, watch the space. Now, chicks and nests, tell me about that.
That's interesting. It's great. It's what we want to try and do. We want to have chicks raised by their mothers. So we are either hatching the chicks in the nests in some cases, or we're just putting the chicks back into the nest once they've hatched in the incubators once they're about 1 or just 2 days old.
Tell me how that happens.
So we'll hatch them and we'll give them a feed normally for a day, and then depending on the mother, we normally put the chick into the nest at night time when the mother's off. So we'll take the chick up, and normally in the evening, sometime around about 9 o'clock, we take the chick in a little polystyrene box with a heating element in it to keep it warm. We'll sit there in the tent next to the nest to wait till the mother gets off. If the mother's a little while, we'll normally give the chick a feed in the nest, so give a little bit of a top up, and go down to the nest to wait till the mother goes off. And what we normally do is wait until the mother is on her way back or close to coming back, and then we put the chick in the nest then, so that is sort of on its own for as little time as possible. And then we go back to the tent and we watch with bated breath on the little monitor screen from the camera just to see what she does with it.
I know you've done this a few times. Tell me what happened at Alice's nest.
So Alice, I gave it her Pearl 2B about 4 nights ago, and it actually went quite well. She came in, saw the chick, just tumbled it around a little bit, but not too much, and then sat down on it straight away and started feeding it within an hour and was feeding it really well. Alice is an experienced mother. She's seen this before with chicks. She's had chicks before, so I guess it was fairly routine. She went away. When she left, she had 2 dummy eggs, so I took out the 2 dummy eggs and replaced them with a little chick. I did also try to introduce a chick to Alice during the day. We do that sometimes if we can with mothers who are very accepting, but she was a little bit unhappy about that and growled at me a few times and lunged at me, so I decided to wait until she'd got off that night. It's
remarkable that a female can leave home and she's got 2 eggs and she comes back and there's a chick and she's just so hardwired, it's just she instantly switches into, now I'm going to look after this chick mode.
Exactly, and it's not her chick either a lot of the time too. And I don't know, I feel that they probably must know that it's not their chick. They've got such an amazing sense of smell. I would have thought they'll definitely have cues. They'll know that, it's been handled by humans, it's been in a strange environment, but they accept it instantly. So it's really lucky for us that they are so accepting for this cross-fostering. If not, it would make things much more difficult.
So the chick that you fostered to Alice, Pearl 2B, that is from Pearl's second clutch. Pearl, of course, being the first female to mate this season.
That's right. Yeah, so it's the only fertile egg that Pearl had. She's had a bit of a hard time, had 2 nests that were both shut down or both failed, one because of petrel incursion and one because a young juvenile got into her nest. But yeah, so she's got that chick, and that chick's looking really good last time I saw it.
Fantastic. Now, I think you did the same thing with Queenie. Of course, I'm very attached to Queenie since she's named after my mum. She's 10 years old. She actually hasn't bred before. So you still gave her a chick?
Yeah, we did. And so, I mean, at some point, a female Kākāpō is going to see a chick for the first time. Normally, they'll probably be there and see it hatch. In this case, she didn't see it hatch. She left her nest with an egg in it, came back, and there was this little ball of fluff in there, this little chick. And yeah, it was a little bit of a heart in my mouth moment when I watched her sort of tumble it around quite a lot, dragged it around upside down in the nest quite a bit, trying to get it underneath her. She was trying to do the right thing, just a bit clumsy about it. And then when she started feeding, it was quite a long while later. She was quite, just not used to the feeding, but she was doing a good job. And now that chick is actually doing really quite well. So it was really cool to see. And, all of our team are doing this at the moment. We're introducing chicks to mothers and just waiting and watching to see how they accept them.
Are you giving just 1 chick per mother?
We are on Whenua. On Anchor, some of the nests have got 2 chicks in. It's basically down to food supply, and the rimu fruit looks like it's ripening on Anchor. It looks like there will be quite a lot of food, so they're able to cope with more chicks there.
So this fostering and giving out these chicks, you're going to keep doing that as the chicks hatch?
Yes, that's right. Yep. So we try, and every mother, we don't want her to wait too long for an egg. So, we wait for that 28-day incubation period, give her a chick close to that, as close as we can, and as close to a small chick as possible. We don't want to give her a big chick straight away. And we also always keep a couple of chicks normally spare in the hand rearing facilities on both islands to swap if necessary. So if a chick's not doing very well in the nest, sometimes we'll swap it out, boost it a little bit with hand rearing and put it back in again. Or sometimes we'll swap them between mothers. So a mother might not be quite as good a feeder as another one. So if a chick's doing poorly in one nest, we might actually give that to another mum who's a really good feeder and then swap the chicks around like that.
And what's your measure of whether a chick's doing well?
We just look at its weight. So for the first 4 days or 3 days, we normally weigh them every night. And then we plot that weight on a graph against what we'd expect the average to be for a chick of that age. So we see how it's doing compared to average. We normally say we have a pull weight. So if the chick is doing really badly, if it's lower than 35% below the mean weight that it should be, we will start to think about pulling that chick out of the nest and putting it in hand rearing. But there's quite a lot of other factors as well in play. There's we have a look at the respiration of the chick and its general health, and if there's any other issues with it, then we might take it in for hand rearing if there's any illness.
Now, last week on the Kākāpō Files, the Flying Kākāpō Sperm episode, we talked about artificial insemination and your very innovative drone project. How's the artificial insemination assisted breeding project going?
Yeah, we're winding down with that. So our experts, our friends from Germany, have now flown home, and so we might do 1 or 2 more artificial inseminations, but it's getting difficult now with a smaller team and with chicks in nests. But it went well. We did lots of inseminations. I think we did just over 15, and with 11 different females. We don't know the results of those yet. We know that some of those females that we inseminated have had fertile eggs in their second clutches. So that's exciting. So we know that there's potential there for success. What we don't know yet is who the father was. So we have to wait for genetic testing to actually find out whether that artificial insemination was successful or not.
Does it look like the artificial insemination may at least have helped improve the fertility rates?
Well, just on the face of it, I mentioned earlier about the high fertility in the second clutch, and we are seeing that, but yeah, it's a little bit unclear. We also see higher fertility in the second clutch on Anchor where we didn't do any artificial insemination, so yeah, it's too early to say whether it's improved fertility yet.
Maybe just that they got better with practice.
Maybe, yeah, and it might just be some of the individuals as well who remated tend to have higher fertility.
Thanks, Andrew. That was Andrew Digby from the Kākāpō Recovery Team at the Department of Conservation. And this has been episode 11 of the Kākāpō Files from RNZ. Kākāpō Rangers. Kākāpō Files is, of course, a podcast. You can find it at all your favourite podcast places. You can also find it online at rnz.co.nz/Kākāpō. Thanks for your company. Until next time, I'm Alison Ballance. Mā te wā.